and I wasn't there. And if you're there, I'd really like to hear from you. And not because I want to hear about the game. I don't need your assessment of the game. I have eyes.
Yeah.
Tyler has eyes. We have eyes. Y'all have eyes. There's literally nothing that Tyler and I can come in here and say that you don't know. You are fully capable of watching South Carolina basketball and knowing what's going on. There's not a thing that Tyler or Dave or myself can come in here and tell you today that shocks you. I did put out the tweet last night with the numbers. They're horrific. The last 26 conference games dating back to the start of last year, South Carolina's 4-22. Okay, that's not good. But 9 of those 22 losses are by 20 or more points. That's bad. 4 of those 9 losses, 4 of those 9 are by 30 or more points.
And it's one of those things that, like, we're all aware of, but when you see it put into the context of one tweet in a paragraph, like, oh, it's gotten that bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is really bad.
Yeah. I've talked about it. We've talked about it. The month of January is wrapping up. And you and I, January 2nd or 4th or 5th, I don't know, something like that. When we came back, January 6th maybe, I told you we talked, and our conversation on air centered around, I think you were out that day. You were out on that Tuesday.
I think so.
And I said it was the year of Jeremiah Donati. This is the year of Jeremiah Donati. And I put on Twitter today, and I'll stand by it now, South Carolina basketball is now in the hands of Jeremiah Donati. Simple as that. It is just Jeremiah Donati. You're on the clock whenever you want to make the move. And we'll tell you, look, I'll get into it today. I'll get into it a little bit about making a move because there is a difference. I don't know why. I don't have an answer for you why football and basketball are different. Maybe this is the beginning of an evolution of college basketball. You don't see as many midseason fights. Like this past season for college football was insane, right? With the midseason firings.
Guys are Pry got fired at week 3?
Well, Franklin was October.
Yeah, it was pretty early. It was definitely
Pry was quick.
It was definitely the most in season and probably the earliest I remember firings happening in college football.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of them.
It was a bunch of them. Yeah, it was like, again, gosh, a fourth of the SEC jobs, more than that, almost half the SEC jobs came open at some point.
Yeah, and I don't know why. In the past, basketball is different. I don't have an answer for you on that. It's the question you don't ever ask. But basketball is different. Midseason firings simply don't happen. And I will say this, after contemplating a lot of things last night, there are pros and cons to South Carolina's situation of moving on at this point. And, we've had Lamont Paris on this program. I think he is an incredible individual. I love sitting and talking basketball with him, but our job is to come in here and to be honest. And again, there's not a thing Tyler or I can come in and say that y'all don't see.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think if you probably a lot of you were ahead of the game, but last night, Tyler, it was so embarrassing and it was so bad and it was on your home court. And maybe the upside was there was a 9:00 game and people had gone to bed.
Yeah.
But and it was the varsity against the 7th grade team. That's what it was.
It was what it looked like. And again, nobody was going to be shocked if you lost to Florida, but nobody foresaw quite literally the 4th largest loss in program history, the biggest loss this millennium in program history, just looking like you didn't belong in the same league with that team. Again, that team won the national championship last year. They're playing their best basketball right now. We know that they are better, but in the SEC, especially in year 4 of a era like Lamont Paris is here, nobody should be 47 points better than you in any instance whatsoever. And go back a couple weeks, you got bludgeoned by Arkansas. You got bludgeoned by A&M the other day, and really you had some garbage time points that made that game look closer than it actually was. But 3 of your losses in conference play have been by extremely wide margins.
Now, if you want to play a fun game, we're going to make fun of Tyler for a second.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to make fun of Tyler. I'm in a group text message with a lot of varsity basketball coaches around the Columbia area. I've had to get back into this with my son. And I asked the question last night, what would you rather have happen? lose by 47, where you accept it pretty quickly, or your point guard drives into the lane and makes a layup down 3 with 0.6 of a second to go in overtime.
Yeah.
By the way, for those that don't know, real quick, Georgia last night was down 3 to Tennessee in a phenomenal game.
Yep, went into overtime. It was the game that led into Carolina.
Yeah, if you didn't
have the ESPN app, you had to watch the rest of that game before you could see Carolina be down by like 15 when they came in. But yes, Smurf Millender didn't see the score, didn't misread the score, but was he feeling good when it went in? Like, all right, I tied it.
Oh, he was shocked. Nobody came to celebrate.
And they realized, oh no, I needed 3. But that haven't seen that one before.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen that. Well, what was his name? Did it in the NBA Finals? One of the crazy guys who's now really good at golf, and it was at North Carolina A&T. Guy, I can picture his face with LeBron. I think he thought they needed a 3, and he kicked out in the NBA Finals in like game 1 or 2. What's his name? He was supposed to go to North Carolina, and he didn't end up going. I can't. It'll come to me. But I've seen that. I've seen stuff like hey, it happens. But yeah, that was a tough way. But we'll talk about the basketball. There's nothing to talk about from last night. There's just you can call in, you can weigh in. I will say the worst thing for Tyler and I is apathy.
Yeah.
When you don't care anymore about a particular sport, for us, that's when we're in trouble. That's like, oh, no.
And we're coming off the heels of a disappointing football season. Now, yes, Beamer's done a lot of things this offseason that give us reason for optimism, so that's cool. We talked about yesterday, baseball's got injuries, and there's more. Bo Holland's now maybe not going to be able to start the season, so that's not trending in the right direction, obviously. We're just – We want good teams to talk about. Yes, we have women's basketball, and we do talk about them. But these other sports need to pick up the slack.
Well, I continue to pull the curtain back on our job a little bit. Look, there's I'd say a highly better than average chance there's going to be a coaching search, and that'll give us some content for the month of March. I will say that's another part to this storyline that I'm now trying to make sure that I have 100% down pat on this, because I'll be honest, there is from what I know, having been in the profession a little bit, having seen things with where the buyout is related for Lamont Paris as to when you can start this, like when the buyout drops, I should say.
Yeah.
That's an issue. Or it's not it's an issue. I should just say, in my opinion, it's an issue, and I'll explain that coming up in a little while. But if you want to weigh in today, and certainly, obviously, we want to hear from you, and I'll get to everything. You can be angry, you can be upset. Our buddy Barry yesterday was on a rant, and that's fine. It happens. Look, it's perfectly acceptable, Tyler, to expect more. I do draw a line. Like, I don't expect anybody. You can't call and be like, we need to be winning championships in basketball. Cool, and that's really neat. But given that I've seen 4 NCAA tournament victories in 50 years, how about we baby step this thing to where I get to see 2 NCAA tournaments in 5 years?
Everybody just desires consistency. You just want to be something that's competitive. And unfortunately, in now 3 of the 4 years of this era, you haven't been competitive. Now, again, you're getting into a different level where you're questioning the effort of your team and the actual trying on the court, which wasn't as big of a concern last year, which takes to another level. But this fan base just wants somebody that's a consistently decent to good team that you can realistically talk about, in late February, saying, hey, here's how they could make the tournament. Not saying they're going to make it every year, but at least give yourself a pathway to do that, not be out of it by the end of January.
Well, I'm not trying to say that what Frank Martin was doing was the best thing since sliced bread. But the one thing about Frank Martin seems that I tried to tell people, they were competitive. And they were, at least when you got to January, normally, I told Tyler this off air yesterday. I said, normally what happens is with Frank Martin teams is you'd start to count them out, and then they'd win like 1 or 2 games at the end of January, at the beginning of February, and you'd be like, all right. And y'all have listened, if you've listened to this program for a long time or listened to me in the morning, you know that I would be like, all right, here's the pathway. You got to win this. It's not out of the ordinary. And now we're talking NCAA tournament, and then they would like lose 2 out of those if
but
games.
They kept you believing.
Yes, and they were competitive, and they were and right now you're not getting that. You're not getting that at all, and that's it's why I'll tell you that in terms of what Frank Martin was doing, I think, yeah, there were a lot of disappointments, but what Frank Martin was doing is widely underappreciated for what South Carolina was at that time. But he could never get over the hump, and I could spend 3 hours on why exactly I believe that to be. I'll sum it up very quickly. Point guard. He never went and got a point guard, which we're back to kind of the same thing. Eli Ellis last night came in, and we've got to, if we're going to be positive about something, Eli Ellis came in last night, and there was something about him last night that was different.
Well, he's been out for a couple games. Energy.
But it was energy, but I don't know if he was angry at losing. I don't know if he wanted to prove something to Florida. He was a dog last night, and they don't have dogs. Yeah. They don't have guys that are down and dirty basketball players. And Eli Ellis last night came in ready to fight people and ready to score, and basically was like, you guys can't score, and I can score, so I'm going to – and I loved everything about what he did last night.
Paris praised him for that after the game, but, again, that's one person. There's 5 guys on the court at a time. When the other guys aren't showing that same kind of fight or anywhere near that, you're not going to win.
So we'll get into that. There's a lot to unpack, and it's not about last night's game. It's about the future of this program. And again, if you want to weigh in today, 803-404-6100. I'll get to some of these text messages. We are now discussing the future of this program and what the future looks like and what direction to go. And we'll go from there. And then there's a lot else to get to. And we got a great guest coming up at 2:15. We're going to do our NASCAR segment at 1:30. With 2:15 today, mark your calendars. The old Captain Munnerlyn, Gamecock great, NFL great. Well, I'm going to call him an NFL great. His son's now being recruited by South Carolina. Captain Munnerlyn will join us at 2:15 today, so we'll bring some good stuff to you coming up then. You're listening to The Halftime Show. It is 12:20 here on a Thursday. I got to get our TVs on. Oh, it's on. I didn't even look up. I was busy during the break. The Farmers Insurance Open is on ESPN, and I know I'm probably in the minority on this, but Brooks Koepka's back, and I'm happy about that. I like Brooks Koepka. I'm a fan of Brooks Koepka, so I'm excited. I'm happy to see Koepka back. I'm happy to see. Look, I'm in the rare minority on this. I'm sure. I'm in the very, very, very minimal minority on this. Of happy to see Patrick Reed back on the PGA, because I think everybody needs a villain. I think everything needs a villain, and Patrick Reed is the perfect villain. And he won't be back until August, and maybe later than that. But we're kicking off golf season now. And reminder, speaking of that, Tyler and I will be out tomorrow at Pro Swing over off of Forest Drive. So you can come and hang out with us from 12 to 3. We'll be hanging out watching a little bit of this Farmers Insurance Open. I have not checked to see how Brooks is doing today, but we'll be hanging out there. So come and join us tomorrow over at Pro Swing. Hit a couple golf balls, hang out inside. It's going to be cold, so you know what? You can play around the golf. I'll even hit some with you. We'll have a putting contest maybe. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll give away a signed Bill Gunner, Captain David Dare, Tyler Head T-shirt.
Sure.
1075 The Game. See if we can track down a T-shirt and sign it. And if you can beat me in a putting contest tomorrow, you come by and win. I tell you, we'll do that. We'll see. Right. We'll see. If I get it, we got to get a T-shirt. I'm not. At one point, we had 8 million T-shirts we'd not given out. But if you can come up, we'll give you an official halftime show T-shirt if you come by tomorrow and you be signed by Tyler, myself, and Captain. That's a prize.
That thing would go for dollars on eBay.
Thank you for putting a plural S behind dollars. Dollar. So that's tomorrow. So I'll get the shirt. I'll track somebody down upstairs and get us a shirt, and we'll get it signed. And if you can come by and beat me in a putting contest, you can win yourself a signed halftime show. Those things are be valued. Brag to your friends. 803-404-6100. A couple of y'all are weighing in. Texter weighs in and says, spot on, Bill. Apathetic fan base is the worst place for an athletic program, which is where Gamecock basketball finds itself. Well, let's start with that text, Tyler, because here's the thing about South Carolina. As we've mentioned, the history is not there. 50 years is kind of, I'm just rounding around a little bit, but you've seen 6 NCAA tournaments. You've seen 4 NCAA tournament wins. So, unfortunately, good and bad. Here's the good and bad of this. 90% of the time, the fan base is basically looking, because they've seen such bad basketball. Mm-hmm. The fan base looks at it and just is like, I don't care. I know what you are. I've seen it. I've grown up with it. I'm personally 43 years of age, and a lot of people look at it and go, I've grown up with it and I've seen it. But here's the good of it. When you win and you're competitive, and Darren Horn's first season is a perfect example of this. They didn't make the NCAA tournament. They were 21-10. But people rallied behind that team. And the CLA, which I don't like, I've made that perfectly known, was a great place to be. It was fun. Games were fun. And if you win here in basketball, and the expectation is low, you can build a big fan base. But unfortunately, fans, Tyler, and I'll get your opinion on this, have been put through the ringer and have seen such bad basketball for the better part of 50 years that they just naturally, you've been beaten into a sense of whatever.
Yeah. Well, and again, 2 seasons ago when you made the tournament and were quite literally in the mix for the SEC going into the last couple games of the regular season, I think you saw the fan base come out and create a great atmosphere over at Colonial Life Arena. This year, again, you didn't really do anything special in non-conference play that elicited a ton of confidence going in, but I think we've seen these past couple games that people kind of quickly figured out, like, all right, this team's probably not going to be that competitive. You still show up for, or try to at least, for a game like Florida, hoping you can spring an upset, but you saw it last night with the crowd that about halfway through the first half, people were like, all right, well, this one's kind of out of hand. I'm going to go get a jump on the night or whatever. And that's just kind of where people at. Like, they want to believe you're capable of something, but when you show them very quickly out of the gate it's not going to happen, they're just like, all right, I'm going to go do something else. And you don't blame them for that.
No, I don't. I mean, look, I do, it is a question of supporting your team through thick and thin versus showing up when they finally win. And I've been one of those people who have constantly said, well, you got to support your team through thick and thin. Look, I was in here begging people, what was it, the Vanderbilt game, I believe, or the Georgia game, I can't remember, to come out and pack that. I think it was the Georgia game. And they did. And people went. I mean, it wasn't 18,000 strong. I don't know if it was 14,000 strong. But people went. You had a good home environment. And, we're at a point now, in my opinion, college athletics, you've got to be competitive across the board. I know a lot of people will go, well, just take the NIL money, rev share from basketball, and throw it to football. No, you got to be competitive. If you're in the SEC, you got to be competitive across the board. And quite frankly, given the last 12 months, 13 months now, January of 2025 through now, Tyler, it's very fair to say South Carolina has the worst athletic department of the big three.
Yep.
Sorry, women's basketball. Of the 16 teams in the league, when you look at what basketball did last year, what baseball did last year, and what football did, it's very fair to say. And there's zero reason, and I'm not asking for championships in all three, but there's zero reason that this program can't be competitive in all three, with one of them, baseball, being a championship caliber program.
Yeah, definitely at the bottom of the SEC, and can probably make a pretty strong argument out of those three sports, probably towards the bottom of all of Division I, if we're being honest, in terms of like at least the power conferences.
I hate to say it, you might be right.
Because I can't think of many other schools that have had a performance worse in men's basketball, baseball, and football all within the same, recent calendar year. But it's where you're at. And we talk about it all the time. It takes investment. And yes, Carolina did step up their investment in basketball this year. Not enough. And when you look at the numbers of what's reported out there, what they spent in the portal, it's still a fraction of what the best teams in this conference have to spend on their roster. And you saw the difference in that last night.
Again, I don't, there's only so much we can discuss about last night, and that's whether it's NIL or great players versus what South Carolina's got, shooters, basketball IQ. This, to me, is about now the future of South Carolina basketball and what Jeremiah Donati does. And to be quite frank with you, and I'm not going to go down this path just yet because the job is not open yet, yes, I have names in mind that Bill Gunner would be like, that's 3 or 4 guys I would go look at, and I've got my own opinions as to how to revitalize or get this program going, depending on how you want to look at it. But, it's going to take Jeremiah Donati, finding a coach, and not that Lamont Paris is not. But that is hungry and is willing to absolutely pound the pavement. They showed the video. I don't know if you saw this the other night. Vanderbilt went to play Kentucky, and I get it. And a lot of coaches will do this, and I'm not saying Lamont wouldn't do this. Lamont's a basketball guy. He's a basketball head. But Mark Byington, did you see he had a blow-up mattress in his office because of the snowstorm?
Yeah,
and he's been sleeping there for, consecutive days?
Right.
You got a guy, you have to have a guy at this program right now that is so dedicated to this program that they look at family almost like, sorry, guys, you're second. I don't know who you are.
And it's got to be somebody that people are willing to buy in on. Again, we talk about Paris, as you mentioned earlier, likable dude. We've had him in here. We've talked to him on the show just a couple months ago. Nothing about him as a person we don't like, but the results are not happening on the court to where if you were to bring him back next year, then there's not going to be people lining up with their checkbook saying, yeah, let me write you a bigger check for next season. They would say, no, we haven't seen the results. I'm not wasting my money on that.
Well, and again, as I've said, and I remember having this conversation very specifically with a higher up, because I was shocked they fired Darren Horn after 4 years. Most coaches get 5, and here we are in year 4 for Lamont Paris. But it's the few. I remember the conversation specifically, and it was, we don't see a future with Darren Horn. We don't see it with recruiting. We don't see improvement. We don't see we have fan apathy. And unfortunately, I see the same thing now with Lamont Paris. And last night, I think if even the most optimistic, I feel like last night might have pushed you over the edge. We'll get into some football talk. We'll come back to basketball. There's a lot to get to, and I see you texting in, but we'll get into some football talk. I think we all have all the schedules now released. Is that right?
Yes, all the Power 4 leagues have released their schedules.
We know some weeks that you want to go ahead and mark your calendar. We'll tell you about a specific one when we come back. You're listening to the Halftime Show. We'll get back to basketball. Get into some football, something a little more positive. Phew. I got opinions. Tyler's got opinions. Tyler's opinions might be better than mine because he's more unbiased. He can see it from a different view than I can. So we got to get a little show here with how we'll balance this out going into February. But we'll get back into basketball talk. But Tyler, last night, I guess, the Big Ten puts out their schedule. We know the SEC's weekly schedule. We know the Big 12's weekly schedule. I guess we know the ACC's, although there's like, who was it? Which team was it? Miami? I think it's Miami that's got 3 Friday night games. It's Miami, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, Miami's got 3 Friday nights. And Miami's got a weird schedule for what the ACC did to them was wrong. But we now know the Power 4 conference's full 2026 schedule. So you can now plan accordingly. If you want to have a wedding, I don't know why.
I just don't.
Just don't.
Yeah.
But if you want to, or your son or daughter's planning a wedding, you can now specifically look at a weekend and be like, don't do that. You've got a weekend instantly that jumped out to you that you were like, there we go. There's your go ahead and circle that to not leave the house.
Yeah, and skimming through, and this is basically Power 4 schedules. I guess all the G5 conferences still got to release their full things of games that we know are going to happen right now. It looks like Week 10, which will be Saturday, November 7th, looks like the best weekend on paper as we sit here on January the 29th. You're going to have matchups like Alabama and LSU, obviously always a big deal. Georgia and Ole Miss, again, a playoff rematch there. BYU and Utah. Let's see, we had Miami and Notre Dame that weekend. You got Oregon and Ohio State that day, just as some of the headline matchups of what we assumed are going to be highly ranked teams taking each other on.
It's going to, you look again, and we start looking ahead toward the season, and to me, 803-404-6100, y'all tell me if I'm kind of crazy. It's going to be a weird season. I can't remember. Maybe somebody can. I can't remember the last time South kind of opened up with what is truly 2 cupcakes to start the season. Like 2 truly, all right, I'm paying attention to you, but after the halftime, I shouldn't be paying attention to you games.
You wouldn't count ECU as the second game in 21 because that was actually a close game.
Well, it was there, and it was Beamer's first year.
Yeah, it was Beamer's first year because you played Southern Illinois or Eastern Illinois.
Eastern Illinois. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. I didn't. You're right. I didn't count that.
Yeah. I can't think of other instances there. And again, it wasn't supposed to be that way. You're supposed to play Miami in week number 1, which, my goodness, imagine the hype of getting to take on the defending runner-ups over at Willie B in week number 1. Probably could have been a night game and all that kind of stuff. And now you get Kent State instead.
Yeah, and I get it. I'm not arguing with what South Carolina did. I hate it as a fan. Would I rather see the Hurricanes and Darian Mensah coming in for their first game against Darian Mensah and Lenora Sellers? You
could legitimately get game day here for that.
It would be Clemson. I would think Clemson, LSU, or South Carolina, Miami.
Yeah, one of those.
I just looking at that opening week, but you don't have that. And so I say that because let's just start kind of real quick here with week 1, Tyler, because that's the week, real quick, week 0, by the way, for those of you wanting to know, August 29th, North Carolina, TCU, Hawaii, Stanford, North Carolina State, Virginia.
That is in Brazil.
Yeah, it is. What are we doing? And New Mexico State and Florida State. So there's your week 0 schedule. North Carolina, TCU, at least this is what we got set right now. Never know. They might move one more game there. But North Carolina, TCU, Hawaii, Stanford, NC State, Virginia, New Mexico State, and Florida. Florida State. And so I got to say, hey, week 0, I'm kind of like, all right.
Yeah, that's actually compelling because you at least have 2 games that should be competitive. And if we know Florida State, that New Mexico State game could be competitive too.
The Thursday night kind of opener that South Carolina was notorious for in the Spurrier era. Right now, the game we got basically is Colorado, Georgia Tech, unless you really want to get into Akron, Wake Forest, or Eastern Illinois, Minnesota. And for those of you that have an addiction problem and need to call somebody, UMass and Rutgers will also play that night in Piscataway.
That actually might be a game not available on television. UMass doesn't play a lot of games on TV for good reason.
So that right now is the current Thursday night schedule. The Friday night schedule, as I mentioned, but Miami goes to Stanford. So the Hurricanes now have an ACC game to make up for the South Carolina game that they were going to participate in. But that Saturday slate, let's just start with this, and then I'll go to Week 10 just to kind of give you the Saturday slate as it stands right now. These games can always be moved a little bit. You got Baylor-Auburn. All right, 1 through 1. Well, let's do the Preston Thorns scale of rating. 1,
right.
2, 4, 5. Your level of excitement. 1, 2, 4, 5. Baylor-Auburn.
I'll go 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, high.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to go 2. Again, because you can't use 3.
Hey, you know what? 3. Yeah,
You can't use 3. You can't use 3.
Can I do decimals?
No.
So this has to be 2
Tough
or
game.
4?
Hey, this is Preston's game, and I
All
enjoyed
right.
it.
If I can't do 3, 2.
Okay. All right. Louisville and the and Mississippi. The team tampering known as Mississippi. And that, by the way, is played at Nissan Stadium in Nashville.
Yeah, I'll go 4.
Okay, I'm kind of with you on that. I'm kind of with you on that. Scrolling down the list, I skipped a big one, and I'll come back to it here in just a second. But let's see, that Saturday, you also have, I thought I had one more on here. I don't think you care about Washington State, Washington. That other Saturday, and this will be game number 5, and they can pretty much guarantee this is where game day will be. Clemson, LSU. That'll be a 5.
That's 5.
That'll be a night game. Night game on. I don't know if ABC does the night games yet for the first weekend, but that'll be the night game.
Because that was the 7:30 game this past year on week 1.
Right.
It was a good game. I mean, for what it was.
Sunday, for those of you wondering, the day before Labor Day, Notre Dame and Wisconsin, and your Labor Day night game, SMU and Florida State, a revitalized Florida State team, supposedly.
The last time Florida State played a week 0 game and then played on Labor Day, that started a pretty disastrous season. So
they got off to a rough start.
We kind of knew they were dead in the water at that point.
All right, now you mentioned Week 10. Week 10 is your big week, right?
Week 10 is my big week.
All right, for those of you counting, I don't know if you gave the date, I forget. That's going to be
November 7th.
November 6th and November 7th. On that November 6th, the ACC has I don't know, what is the ACC doing, by the way? This is actually interesting. I'm not 100% sure if these are all set. I think they have yet to decide just yet. But according to the ESPN schedule, they have 4 games listed for ACC games. I believe it is to be determined on the date. The date. But Clemson, Syracuse, Duke, NC State, Louisville, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech, SMU will all be one of those. I believe will be a Friday night game. I don't know how they're doing that when they make that decision.
Well, it has them listed as a Friday game right now anyway.
Yeah, but when they put it out. Today's Thursday. When they put it out Tuesday, it said 6th or 7th.
Oh, okay.
6/7. So I didn't dig deep enough to find out.
I was like, they don't have enough networks to show all these games on.
You can figure it out. That day, Arkansas, Auburn, Oklahoma, Florida, Alabama, LSU, which now I guess we'll care about again.
Yeah.
Georgia, Mississippi. You're going to have Texas and Missouri, which could end up being a good game. South Carolina that day, bad news. Hosting a game, so you go to the game. Texas A&M comes to town. We look to get revenge for that particular upset that took place.
Win the Bonham Trophy back.
That's right. Got to get that back. Miami, Notre Dame in South Bend. Kind of look forward to that one a little bit. You got Michigan State, Michigan for you Northerners, for the other Northerners that really care. Or you mentioned this, Oregon at Ohio State in Columbus. That'll be a lot of fun.
Probably the noon game.
Penn State at Washington. DeMond Williams and taking on Matt Campbell and them. That's going to be a truly great day of football.
Yeah, again, that's looking like the best based on what we know now because, again, we can hype things up in January and they look much different by the time November rolls around. But of what we think we know about these teams, that looks like the best weekend. 803-404-6100. We'll get back into some basketball. I've got some stuff on the Twitter machine. I got some of your text messages, and we'll wrap up our number 1 when we return. You're listening to the Halftime Show.
You ever watch Ballers?
Did
Did you ever get into Ballers on HBO?
No, I never saw it.
You need to watch it.
I've only ever had HBO recently.
It was ahead of its time, but there's some stuff in there with college football that you're like.
It's The Rock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spencer Strasmore.
Okay.
I actually got it. It was actually that song, for those of you who wonder where did that come from. Lil Wayne's right above it was the opening song, the theme song for it. And actually a good show. Like, it went off the rails a tad toward the end.
Oh,
but,
all shows do.
But as that song came on, I was thinking, I don't know why it made me think of Spencer Strasmore, and I was like, wait a minute. The more I think about it, there was some stuff happening in that show that towards the end, as they went toward a college route, not the NFL route, that I was like, oh, yes, that's taking place nowadays in the college football world. We'll get more into that.
It was probably taking place then, too.
Well, yeah, no. There's a great scene in there. I can't remember the exact scene, but where basically something happens and they go up to Ohio State. It specifically says Ohio State. And they go up to try and get a kid to go there, or a kid's going to go there, or whatever. And I think it's Strasmore leaves, and he gets arrested. They arrest him for speeding. You can't see it. I did the quotation marks with my fingers. You can't see it because it's a radio program. And they won't let him out of jail until the kid signs with Ohio State. Or it was something to that effect. I'm not being funny.
I'm not saying that hasn't happened.
You're probably not going to be watching a lot more basketball. So for the month of February, at least for the next 2 weeks, because opening day for baseball is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
I've got a lot of good documentary recommendations. My wife and I are big into documentaries, so if you need some suggestions on those, I got you.
Save the. We're coming up on them. Unfortunately, we're coming up on them. 803-404-6100. We've been talking some college football there in the last one. We've been talking basketball, and let's go out to the phone lines. Barry, we got about a minute and a half for you, so make it concise, make it quick here on your quick thoughts. I know you laid out the majority of them yesterday, but real quick, you got about a minute. What you got?
About a minute. Okay, I think I called it right yesterday with Donati having to do something. You agree. I texted Elijah last night after the game, said he should have been fired on the spot after the game. I don't know what the money situation is, the buyout, okay? But pay him. It's not going to hurt recruiting. He's not going to be here next year, so it's not going to matter. Put somebody else in the coach's seat. Let them have a little fun interim-wise and start looking for another coach. Simple as that. And it wasn't a rant yesterday, man. I'm just what they call an animated conversationalist. I'm Italian. So that's the deal. I've been all over it. It's time for the guy to go. And like I said, depending on the money and the buyout, he should have been let go after last night's game. I'll leave it at that.
Good call. There you go. And thank you for that. I will start using that from now on. I am no longer ranting at you. I'm having an animated conversation. That was perfect.
That will now be used in my vocabulary. Animated conversation. Thank you, Barry. I did not know that was a thing.
So the buyout. Here is what I'm to understand. And let me be clear about this again, Tyler, because we're not a year into working together. I don't like doing this. I don't like talking about it, but you can't come in here and hide from the conversation, especially after a 47-point loss.
We know. We've seen enough sports to know how these things go.
So here's, I don't know if you want to label this the issue or not the issue. What I am told to believe, and I'm trying to research this a little bit more, and I'm sure it's public information, the buyout is in the ballpark of $4 million. It's not ridiculous. On April 1st, on April 1, it drops to $2.5 million. Here's the problem. That is the weekend of the Final Four. Any teams that are looking to make a move will have essentially made their move by then. Now, again, as I said earlier in the program, Tyler, and you can kind of vouch for this because you've seen it, you don't see a lot of in-season moves with basketball.
Not typically.
Basketball is really kind of straight. You know about football and basketball, like there's like basketball at times is 10 times dirtier in terms of recruiting than football. But like when a kid commits in basketball, it's like all the coaches are like, well, back off of him. Yeah. He's committed.
Yeah.
Whereas football might not actually be as dirty when a kid is not committed, but it's like when the kid commits, it's when everything picks up and escalates.
Sure.
Basketball, when a kid commits, and I say that just because you see weird things in basketball that don't happen in football. Well, like one of those is midseason firings. And I will say right now, if things continue down the path that they are, kind of to Barry's point, it might actually be justified just to get a new voice in there. Not that a lot of you are happy with it, but to resonate with what Steve Spurrier said, sometimes you just got to have a new voice in the locker room leading them to the last week. Nobody wants to see them quit midway through February.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly a conversation worth having. Will they do it? I don't know. Now, again, would you do it to put yourself out there by saying, hey, we become the first job available to just make it known compared to doing it when everybody else is making
the reason
moves?
you would okay, let me go back to this. So I don't know here, this is what we're going to learn. We're all going to learn this together. What are you all about, Jeremiah Donati? What is money to you? Can we be a Penn State or LSU where a dollar doesn't matter anymore? I don't know. Now we're talking $4 million as opposed to $50 million, which those schools put up. I don't think you can wait. If you're going to make that decision, you can't wait till April 1st.
Right.
You don't do things behind the scenes. That's not good for anybody. It's not good for Lamont Paris. It's not good for the team. It's not good for anybody. We'll continue talking about this. There's a lot more to get to. We'll get back into some football. Captain Munnerlyn, current Gamecock, always Gamecock, always 2:15 here in a little while. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. Weather is coming. I don't know what is coming, and I'm the amateur meteorologist, but it's just going to be something. Ice, snow, rain, sleet, hell, I got no idea. What I do know is it can impact your roof. It can affect your roof. And, boy, if it has not been checked on in a while, you might end up with a leak. And if you end up with a leak on Saturday night or Sunday, this much I know for sure, you're not going to be happy. Don't wait around. Call Mid-State Roofing today. They've been taking care of the Midlands of the state of South Carolina for over 30 years. Wherever you're listening this afternoon, whether it's Aiken, whether it's Charleston, whether it's Myrtle Beach, whether it's Greenville, Spartanburg, whether it's right here in Columbia, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you. 803-356-1919. Get ahead of the game. Get a maintenance contract on that roof. Make sure everything is in working order. 803-356-1919. Call Mid-State Roofing today, and then tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 1 o'clock on a Thursday. Or as I've officially started calling it, the weekend. All up to you. Eye of the beholder situation as we get you set. No football this weekend? At all?
No.
I don't want to hear about what's tonight. Do not. Now, we done put Shador Sanders in it. It doesn't count even if the Pro Bowl meant anything.
Wait, the Pro Bowl's not tonight.
Is it not? I thought it was Thursday. What is tonight? They got something tonight at 8 o'clock.
Tonight?
Is it a skills challenge?
No, I think everything's on Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday, not Thursday?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I don't.
I don't watch the Pro Bowl.
I don't either. And I thought last night as I was watching it preview Thursday.
In years past, they've done the skills on Thursday and then the Pro Bowl on Sunday. This year, I believe everything is happening Tuesday night. I know the actual game,
You're
the
right,
flag
Tuesday.
football game is on Tuesday. I think.
See, they don't. I mean, they don't. I would actually, we can't do this. I would actually give $100 to anybody who knows where they're doing the Pro Bowl right now.
Oh, it's in San Francisco.
Well, good. We broke that rule. Thank goodness.
Sorry.
I was going to say without because you study and you show up prepared.
In the city where the Super Bowl is.
But I guarantee you 98% of our listeners, number one, don't care. Two, are like me and don't know when the Pro Bowl is. And three, I could have offered a financial dollar to people without looking it up and would have no clue where the Pro Bowl is.
Yeah, there is nothing tonight.
So we got no football. As far as you...
At 10 o'clock on ESPN2, you can watch Senior Bowl practice if you want to.
Okay, so there is a game because that means the Senior Bowl is Saturday.
Yes, I guess technically if you want to watch some football, the Senior Bowl is this weekend. And that means
almost
tonight,
worse than the Pro Bowl.
Maybe one of the Shrine Bowls is on tonight. Maybe.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of those different games.
Locked in, baby. Basketball in NHL mode, and the Champions League yesterday wrapped. We're going down to the round of 16, I believe. So my football days have become numbered for now. Super Bowl coming up, and we'll get more into that. There's this story. I tell you what, you couldn't Browns any more than the Browns are Browning right now with Jim Schwartz and this whole situation, and it's not it's a serious situation if you're a Browns fan. It's a serious situation if you're in the Browns organization.
Sure.
I think for people like you and me and the majority of us out there who are non-Browns fans and just look at them with comedic relief, you're like, yeah, that's about the most Browns thing you could ever do.
Yeah, typically you want your coaching hire to be met with excitement and praise. It's not always going to be across the board, but you want like the overwhelming majority to feel happy and excited about the hire. That ain't happening in Cleveland right now. You quite literally have, I think it was Myles Garrett, posted the meme of the Popeyes worker with her head down sitting on the bench in reference to Todd Monken being hired as their head coach. Not great for your star player.
No, well, so if you haven't really followed this, if you haven't really kept up with it, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't really follow the Browns hiring process until...
It was a mess, as it usually is.
Yeah, I knew that they were doing wild...
Do you want to take an aptitude test, Bill?
I was going to say, the rumor, if you hadn't said, number one, if you hadn't followed it, and why would many of you in Columbia, South Carolina, with everything else going on, why would you be following the Browns if you're not, again, unless you're a fan? Did they ever prove this, or was this just still rumors? Was it ever actually proven? And what I'm saying is, explain again, because they had them taking tests. You came in to take a test.
Yeah.
You had to do like an IQ deal. You mentioned an aptitude test.
I think there might have been an essay.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
It wasn't like, hey, how are you going to redo our organization?
The reporting from NFL insiders was that the Browns have consistently, and they've hired a lot of coaches in the past handful of years, have consistently gone this now like super data-driven route where they have these tests and these analytics that tell you which coaches can work and all that kind of stuff, and they seem to be content with still doing that. My thought process was you haven't got it right in a while, so maybe switch up your thought process here, but they're going to continue to do what they're going to do. But yes, for whatever these processes were with tests and analytics, they either settled on Todd Monken or everybody else got out of the way and they're like, all right, Todd, you'll do fine.
Well,
he didn't seem like the leader in the clubhouse.
Well, no. Who was the leader in the clubhouse?
I don't know if anybody was.
According to reporting, say what you want. According to report, and there was a name. So again, let me be very, 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 very clear on this. I was not in any way, shape, or form following the Browns' hiring of Todd Monken, and nor did I really care. I have no financial or personal investment in the Cleveland Browns. They were going to hire someone whose name I don't even know. I never heard of, and I'll have to go back and look it up because I mean it was literally a name to me out of nowhere. And Jim Schwartz, the current defensive coordinator, was okay with that.
Yeah.
He understood, or he thought, he was under the impression that he was second in line in this situation, and that I'll get the name here in a minute, and that he was second in line to get the job behind this guy that they were talking about hiring. That guy ended up getting passed over, and they ended up taking Todd Monken, and now Jim Schwartz. And this is kind of interesting because here's where it kind of can overlap with college. Jim Schwartz is under contract with the Browns. The Browns don't have to just let him go.
Right.
And so yesterday, there's reports coming out that Jim Schwartz is like, man, apparently he went to the front office, told some people goodbye. Have you ever seen the movie Half Baked, where one of the guys basically goes on a rant at the restaurant? I can't say what he said, but tells people what they can do to themselves,
right?
And then like hops out. Schwartz apparently went to a couple offices and basically did the same thing, and then left the building. And to your point, then Browns defensive players, who are very close with Schwartz, Myles Garrett included, have now taken to social media to express their displeasure in the hire and their support for Todd Monken.
Yeah, was it Nate Shieldhouse that you were thinking of?
No.
The Rams assistant?
The guy that I read yesterday, I have literally never heard of in my life. No. Who? I'll have to go back and find it. It was on ESPN.
Okay, I'm not sure.
I'll go back and find it in a second. I'm going back and looking for the article because, again, when I saw it yesterday, I was like, I don't even know if that's a real human being. But I also kind of was like, sounds about right for the Browns. It should be right. But, yeah, very, very interesting there in what they were doing. Grant Udinski, the Jaguars OC.
Oh, okay.
The Jags OC.
Well,
I think I'm saying that right. Udinski.
I heard the name, but I assumed Liam Cohen was calling the plays for the Jaguars.
I did.
So I was like, was he actually doing anything, or how does that work? But yeah, I did hear that name pop up now that you mentioned. And this was also a coaching cycle or a coaching search that you had guys removing their names from, I guess, when they saw the Browns process. And again, in my lifetime, the Browns have never really been good. I know they've made a couple of playoffs here and there, but like they've been doing this wrong more often than not for a very long time. So you would think they would switch up their process at some point, but it doesn't seem like they did that.
No, they didn't. And so just for laughter, for funs and giggles, if you want, keep an eye on that situation. Also yesterday in the NFL, this was interesting because I don't know how often this happens. I never really pay attention to the fallout from who does and who doesn't get into the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But the Hall of Fame yesterday actually putting out a statement almost to kind of quail a little bit, if you will, the outrage that Bill Belichick didn't get into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot.
Yeah, now again, they can't go back and make these people change their votes, but it does seem like whoever, and I know Bill Polian has denied it was him, whoever may have been politicking for Bill Belichick to have to wait a little while because of the controversies from when he was with the Patriots. Apparently that goes against the voting process and, all that kind of stuff. So there are discussions of maybe changing who's getting votes now. And again, we don't know the names of these people that voted or not for Bill Belichick because, again, he didn't get the required 40 out of 50 votes he would have needed to get in. But they're out there, and I don't know, maybe these people won't have votes going forward.
So that was kind of the national news.
Also learned Eli wasn't getting in on the second ballot either.
Yeah. I don't know. Those are your kind of national stuff from yesterday. The other big thing last night, just in terms of sports, there's a part of me that feels like I'm missing out because I do admit I want to see greatness in its time. I think this is me an aging thing. And understanding that I wish I'd have seen Jordan more. I wish I'd have watched Kobe more. I wish I'd have watched Tom Brady more.
Yeah.
LeBron last night in his final game, his possible final game in Cleveland, although I was watching some lead up to that game, and I know a lot of y'all don't care about NBA, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but LeBron James is the third Well, he's up there. He's not top 2 in my NBA top 5, but he's up there. But I do think you have to appreciate LeBron James as an overall athlete. He's never caused trouble by all accounts. He has tried to be a phenomenal father to his kids. He's done some kind of weird, wacky stuff, the decision and Taco Tuesday. And
maybe he's not completely honest about how some things have gone down, but yes, from like a scandal standpoint, he's never done anything egregiously bad.
I always go to it as me having a 13-year-old son who plays basketball. Like, do I feel comfortable with my son wearing a LeBron jersey, pulling for him, looking up to him? And yes, like LeBron is, but we are watching the end of greatness. And I will say, whether you like the NBA or not, it's always a shame to see these guys in the way, at the very end of their career, when you see true greatness, and
Sure.
LeBron is true greatness. And last night was a little emotional, but here's my opinion on this, and I don't know if you'll agree. I think he's going to go back to Cleveland for one more year next year and finish out.
There is a lot of speculation about that, and I have said this for years, and I'll continue to say it. LeBron does not retire out of the blue in the offseason. There is going to be a final
I agree
season
too.
announced ahead of time, and again, we'll have the parades and the ceremonies and the video packages and all that kind of stuff as he goes to every arena for the last time. But yes, there is a real possibility he could choose to end his career with the Cavaliers, assuming that will be next year.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to bore you with the NBA. We're not trying to get into the depths of the NBA, but when you talk about incredible players, athletes across genres of sports, LeBron James, and that career is, I would guess, got this year and next left in it. And again, I can respect the guy. The guy's never been controversial in terms of, he did this off the, say what you want. Jordan had some issues. Kobe had some issues. All these guys. I don't. Larry Bird, maybe. That's before my time. I think Larry Bird's issues probably never came to light. Like, if you read books about Larry Bird now, one night with Larry Bird might have been one of the wildest experiences. Like, Larry Bird is the most. I'll admit, as I've gotten older and I've read more and more on these NBA players, Larry Bird might have been the wildest NBA player I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Like, due to Instagram, I'm seeing more and more videos pop up on my little Instagram feed of like players talking where Larry Bird was trash talking and like using all kinds of language and would score on dudes and then call out another dude and be like, get over here and guard me so I can put it on you too. And like, I cannot, I now, going back to your point, the Larry Bird I know is Larry Bird laying at the end of the bench because his back was hurt. Mm. I don't know Larry Legend that all you saw in the 80s that was like incredible. I know broken down, injured Larry Bird. And I think we were talking about this the other day. I would love to go back and watch, just old videos of Larry Bird. And we got a chance to kind of watch now to the end of LeBron's career, and it is what it is. 803-404-6100. We'll go back down the basketball path when we come back. Then we got some football to get into. Booger McFarland said something yesterday that caught my attention.
Okay.
He was on Pardon the Interruption. And I want to ask y'all and Tyler. I don't think I specifically told you what Booger McFarland said, but I want to ask you something because it's something that initially we were all like, yes, that should happen. And now it's happening. And I wonder if we're like, wait a minute. No, that shouldn't. I don't want it to be that. I'm going to ask you that because Booger McFarland said something, and I want to come back to that. And also, as you've seen at Alabama and Mississippi, the SEC is running rogue, like literally running rogue right now. Has anybody seen Greg Sankey? Is he like on vacation somewhere?
Well, got a tough job.
He's kind of disappeared.
Got to kick his feet up at some point.
He doesn't seem to have an opinion on two of his programs, like just completely flaunting and going against the. We'll get into that a little bit as well. You're listening.
Checked his email.
Yeah. He's on vacation. Fishing somewhere down in Cancun. 803-404-6100 is the halftime show. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. We'll get back into some kind of big picture football talk, SEC and SEC talk, and a few other things kind of when you look around the league with Mississippi and Alabama. Alabama in basketball, Mississippi in football, brazen. I mean, this isn't even like, well, maybe they're skirting the rules. Maybe they're kind of cheating. I don't know. I can see where they're going here. No. Mississippi tampering with a Clemson football player and Alabama playing an illegal basketball player, brazenly breaking NCAA rules, and then looking up at Indianapolis going, we got two middle fingers for you, buddy.
Yeah, I was say, do something about it.
Yeah. And anybody seen Greg Sankey? No, they haven't. We'll get into that, but let's get back kind of to what I consider the topic of the day, and it is It is the topic of basketball, and again, to me, it's the topic of what's next. And I tell you what, let's listen. This is Lamont Paris, and let's listen to his voice, and let's listen to his tone. And this is going to be cut number 4, Captain Dave, because South Carolina does have to play another game. And to me, it's about the future. There's not much to discuss from last night. This is because they got to bounce back.
Yep.
Like you can't keep. He's the coach. One of the other guys is the coach. Whomever's the coach, you can't keep taking 40-point losses on the chin. And you play LSU next, and you can at least quiet the crowd a little bit with a win. Here is Lamont Paris last night talking about responding after last night before the next game.
Well, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing will be just responding at practice before we can even start talking about another opponent. You know, it's very similar to, again, after the Arkansas game, I challenged the guys going into Auburn that was the most important game of the year because we had to respond. I mean, we had to respond, and we did. I thought we did a good job that way. Didn't mean we played great, but we definitely responded in a competitive and a physicality standpoint. And so here we are. We're faced with that same situation again. So, you know, we played really well against them. We shot the ball. Elijah got off to a good start. So that would be nice. They were without a player that's going to play in this game. We were also, but still. So it'll be a good matchup. We have to, but again, before we get to LSU, honestly, that's the last thing that we're concerned with. This could have happened. This wasn't because it was just Florida or what Florida was doing necessarily. It was because they were aggressive. They were very, very aggressive, and we cowered to their aggression. And so we have to figure out what that looks like to stand up for ourselves in those moments.
And and that's another point, like, and Tyler, and again, I'm not trying to make it personal. I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but you hear that we cowered to their aggression. And I think we all agree a team, one of the biggest adages in sports is a team takes on the personality of their head coach. And it feels like too often this team comes out too laid back. They're not aggressive. They're not, as I had a guy who coaches in college basketball discussed with me within the last 2 weeks, South Carolina doesn't have, now Eli Ellis last night was different, but South Carolina doesn't have, as they refer to, dogs. They don't have kids. They don't have players who come out and are just down and dirty play. The kid last night for Florida, the power forward that grabbed every rebound. All of a sudden, I blank on his name.
Shinaloo?
Yeah. Like, you don't have kids like that who, I think, just scare the opposition.
Right.
South Carolina has a bunch of really nice kids. As one again coach told me that coaches in college, South Carolina is loaded on that roster with kids you would love to probably have your daughter bring home for a Sunday family dinner. They're great kids, phenomenal kids. There's questions about whether you have anybody on that team. Now, Eli Ellis was different last night, but there's questions about kids on that team that are just flat dogs that are going to do whatever it takes to win a basketball game.
Well, and I think you have to ask this question now as, again, this season has gone off the rails. You're not really playing for anything. For these guys that still have eligibility left, they're trying to preserve themselves, saying, hey, I'm probably not going to be here next year. I'm going to hop back in the portal. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I can, if I'm going too hard, hurt myself and risk my own basketball future. Again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but these are legitimate questions you have to ask. when a team gets to this point in the year.
Well, I hope we can say that. You say that. I say that. We see that. We think that. Captain Dave can say it. Anybody here on the station can say it. You hope in that locker room, and this is what Lamont Paris just talked about responding. You hope in that locker room that's not how they feel.
You hope.
You hope in that locker room they look at the schedule and they go, all right, one win at a time. We're 2-6. We got 10 games left in conference. Let's take it one at a time, and if we win 7 of them, we're 9-9, and who knows where that leads us, right? And you go, and whether you can pick out games that you want and say we can get that one, we can get this one. You still, right now, as the rankings stand today, you got 2 games against ranked opponents. They're both on the road. Valentine's against cheating Alabama, and Tuesday, the Tuesday after that, against Florida. We just saw what happened there. Other than that, LSU, Texas, at Texas, Missouri, Mississippi State, Kentucky, at Georgia, Tennessee, at Ole Miss. You and I, or me, I shouldn't speak for you. I'll let you say it out loud for yourself. Yeah, I don't see the future. But you hope the locker room does, and that's what Lamont Paris just talked about responding.
Yeah, and like you said, he said that the other day after the Arkansas game, and you went out there and you played better against Oklahoma. Again, on paper, you're
but again, it helped.
That Oklahoma.
It was Auburn. It was Auburn. They went to Auburn, and they were competitive. But Auburn was 2 of 19 from 3-point range.
Yeah, and again, maybe playing somewhat close to what you think is a really good team reinstills that confidence. I don't know. And if you go out there and you beat the brakes off LSU this weekend, does that reinstill that confidence? Maybe. Again, I still don't think it, revives anything of what this season can be. But you got to try for something. You can't just give up.
Several of y'all weighing in. Beth weighs in and says the basketball boys, they're not very aggressive. There is no bully at the rim. And I agree with that.
And you saw last night, and Paris alluded to it after the game, almost this fear when Florida got in the paint, just letting them through. Like, you didn't have somebody that, and yeah, you're going to risk drawing fouls and all that kind of stuff. But you didn't have anybody that was willing to go head up with those guys to fight and keep them off the boards.
And that's what I mean by they don't have They have a bunch. I'm serious about it. They have what looks like a bunch of great young men that will go on to do phenomenal stuff after basketball, that will be upstanding citizens and make us all very proud that they represented the university. But in terms of basketball players, they don't have. And I remember a specific conversation, Tyler, with Eric Wolford when he was offensive line coach, and he was talking about recruiting, and he said, "I want the 2-star that the sport means something to them.
Sure.
That their life is on the line to win that game, as opposed to the 5-star who's just like, I'm really good and I'll just go out there and he goes, I can take that 2-star who it means something to them. Like the sport, they're going to work their butt off because they know that if they can't succeed in basketball or football, back then, if they can't succeed, they don't know where their life's going. Whereas the 5-star, yeah, he's really good. And that's what South Carolina basketball really, really lacks. And you think about all the good players that they've had over when good players have come through, they've had dudes who it meant something to. And I tell you what, right now, this team would die for a Michael Carrera, for a guy who is not going to back down from any of those Florida players. You would love to have a Chris Silva who doesn't back down, fouls the heck out of everybody, set some kind of single-season foul record. You would love to have guys like that on this team, and you simply do not have that.
Yeah, you don't, unfortunately.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. Is it a good thing players have so much power? Is it good for them when Darian Mensah leaves Duke after telling him he's back? Is that
Maybe.
good?
I don't know.
Are you happy for him? Do you say, as Booger McFarland said, good for the player? I'll ask you that when we come back.
I'm actually going to talk to my friend.
Oh, we got our NASCAR segment.
On the other side. We can get to that a little bit later.
It's time for NASCAR. Oh, guys, we got a new competition. Oh, I'm excited. We're going to get into some NASCAR. Bowman Gray expected to be this weekend.
Expected.
What do we got? Who we got?
Doug Turnbull from the Performance Racing Network on the other side.
Performance Racing Network. We're going to get him going. I'm going to tease him a little bit. And it is time for our checkered flag challenge. We were not making picks this week, but we're going to set up Doug Turnbull, Racing Performance Network.
Performance Racing Network.
I'm learning all of it.
PRN.
This is Tyler is setting me up.
He is one of their pit reporters.
Tyler is going to be the commissioner. He is going to be the guy. We're going to do it. Some NASCAR discussion when we come back. It's the halftime show.
All right, welcome back in. Halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain Dave with you on your Thursday here on The Game. We turn the calendar over 2026, and each and every Thursday at 1:30, we're going to talk some racing as NASCAR is scheduled to make its return this weekend with the Cookout Clash over at Bowman Gray, weather pending, of course.
So excited. I forgot to turn my mic on.
There you go.
Woo-hoo.
I know.
Yeah.
Bill's excited. We're still getting him up to speed on everything in the NASCAR world. So he's going to learn as the season goes along. But every week we're going to talk to my buddy Doug Turnbull, the Performance Racing Network, who joins us now on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Doug, man, good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well today.
Hey, good to be on with you and Will and everybody, man. It's big and hard to believe that although the weather could throw a wrench in it, we're already at the beginning of race season.
I think back 2018 at Martinsville, 2016 at Bristol. The only other times I recall in my lifetime, I know there was the blizzard at Atlanta in '93. The only other times I recall snow potentially impacting a race weekend like this one.
Well, yeah, it actually, and in your lifetime, although you were younger, I've got a few years on you, man. I've been at, I think, 2 March or late February Atlanta race weekends where there were flurries that like delayed practice. Somewhere in the 06, 08 area, something like that. That's happened. And I know there was a time that Kurt Busch on Bristol and actually did snow angels at the start-finish line when he was driving the Blue Deuce. And I think that was in that same period, or 2006, 7, 8, somewhere around there.
Well, either way, it's a very rare occurrence that we're dealing with this weekend where quite literally the Clash may not be run on Sunday because there's snow that's not melted yet.
Yeah, that's crazy. And we saw, I saw on Ben Kennedy, of course, one of the higher-ups in NASCAR, part of the France family. Ben Kennedy put on his social media, I think it was Monday, how they'd had to plow the track. And so Bowman Gray Stadium, for those that don't know, is a quarter mile of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, that is a football stadium that is going to house a NASCAR race. It did so for the first time in decades last year, this exhibition race. But the football field, they still play football there on Friday nights during the season, and the football field was completely white. The track had to be plowed out. So, but with the forecast this weekend not looking great, I'm sure there'll be adjustments. And from what I've seen Bob Pockrass of Fox Sports say and some others is that, basically the contingency plan is just keep delaying it until the weather gets better. And, that could be to next week if it's Monday, Tuesday. Fortunately, it's only up the road from where the race shops are. It's about an hour or less up the road for most of them. And they don't have to be at Daytona until the week after. So that gives them some elbow room.
He is Doug Turnbull joining us. And, Doug, I give you a heads up now. We're going to have you picking each and every week. I love to do a pick 'em. Had one when I was doing the morning show. I'm a 2-time champion. I can't tell you my knowledge is great. I'm just good at picking. And so we'll get you the rules and we'll get everything going. I'm a Denny Hamlin guy. Real quick.
All right.
Just so I know, how do you feel about Denny Hamlin? Because he's a little polarizing to some people.
Well, I try not to have rooting interest for drivers, so to speak, but I'm all about everything Hamlin's about publicly, so to speak. And I mean, that doesn't mean I always agree with him, but I'm all about playing to the heel and then making that character turn that he did at the end of last season. And it was so Denny Hamlin of him to be the main character of that whole year and then lose the championship in the last 3 laps. That was just the peak Hamlin. And then, of course, all the off-season stuff, even before the tragic stuff, but with the trial happening a couple weeks later, it was just peak Hamlin. So I look forward to more of that. He is the straw that stirs the drink among active drivers.
Well, I want your opinion on this. Tyler has shared his, and I'm interested to hear you two go back and forth. A lot of times I'll ask both of y'all a question to hear your opinion so that I can kind of learn.
Sure.
But obviously this year, NASCAR, as it's labeled, is going to go back to the future, I guess, is how to phrase it. They are restoring the chase title format. Tyler seemed very happy with what they're doing. You two kind of discussed that because that's, I think, the major storyline as we get ready for Bowman Gray.
Well, yeah, I'll go first. I mean, it seemed obvious by the discontent in the fan base that they needed to do some kind of change. I was not expecting one that radical. There were different things debated amongst this committee of drivers and other luminaries in the sport, and this is where they landed, was the 10-race chase, which I think really no one was campaigning for, and that's the sign of that's how we keep the government from getting shut down. Okay, that it's when no one walks away fully happy, then you've probably struck a chord. And that's where they landed, is to give the best of, points over a certain period, but a little bit of a reset to create excitement at the end of the year and make the points easier to explain, which my biggest complaint with the previous point system was not the one race champion. It was that it's so hard to explain. So I'm happy that they landed somewhere. And the thing is I remember when people were all upset about the 10-race chase, and now it's being treated messianically. I hope that it turns out that people are a little more content. I'm hoping that humanity will prove me wrong, because they have not been content of late.
Well, if I know NASCAR fans like I think I do, we're all going to get sick of everything at some point in the next couple of years. But for the time being, everybody seems satisfied to a point. And it got into with the 10-race playoffs, with eliminations, everything like that. It really seemed like the entertainment stuff was kind of turned up to 11, and most of the fan base didn't really love that. You had some exciting moments. Obviously, the Hail Melon at Martinsville in 2002. Reddick sending it into Turn 4 at Homestead back in 2024. So it did deliver on some of those moments, but not quite in the way that I think anybody, or it was originally expected to. And over time, that does eventually wear on people to where they want to see a change and something more, as you said, simplified, that's easier to explain to outsiders.
I think you make a great point. Is that when everything is pegged a certain way, when you have, quote, what did they say about this Game 7, but about the previous format that we saw for 11 years, when you have so many Game 7 moments, look, let's put it this way. If the Major League Baseball World Series every year was like it was this past year with the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, we would get used to it and then expect it every time. And if you look over NASCAR history, some of the greatest moments, there was a lot of boredom perforated by these great moments, like the 1992 Hooters 500 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So, I think that this finds a good way to strike a balance with all of it, because every sport has playoffs. There's 16 drivers in this playoff, which the previous iteration of the chase from 2004 through 13 had either 10 or 12 drivers, or that one year they had 13, but that's another story. So that some people are upset that there's too many drivers. The thing is, if you're outside of the top half of those drivers, your shot to win the championship is relying upon a bunch of other people making mistakes and upon you having a perfect 10 races. And other sports have a similar percentage. 16 out of the 36 charter teams is similar to what other sports have going to the playoffs. So every sport has playoffs. I know Mark Martin, NASCAR Hall of Famer, would argue you shouldn't even call them playoffs because we're not playing a game. I get it, but I think we're in a good spot, and hopefully it will deliver.
All right, about 2 minutes left, and I want to get y'all's opinion, because I read stuff, and this line grasped me, and I want y'all's thoughts before we get out of here.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong on the name.
Okay.
Connor Zilisch.
Zilisch. Yep.
Labeled the greatest prospect the sport has seen in the modern era. Makes his debut this year. Tyler, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on the greatest prospect. This is fascinating to me, and a guy now that I will be watching week in, week out. When you label somebody the greatest prospect the sport has seen, I want to see what this kid has to do.
He's done a lot to live up to that billing. Probably should have won the Xfinity Series championship last year. Format hurt him there. Had a great weekend at the Rolex 24. Finished second with his group there, going full-time this year for Trackhouse. And, Doug, last 60 seconds here, I'm very excited to see what he can do in a full year in the Cup Series.
For sure, but almost every rookie has had trouble. His own teammates, Shane Van Gisbergen, struggled mightily, but like Connor Zilisch is an ace on road courses and set the rookie record for race wins. So I think because road courses are so different that there's a chance Zilisch could go up and pop off and win a couple and go toe-to-toe with his teammate. I have trouble believing that he's going to make the playoffs because Trackhouse is not an A-level team. It's kind of like Kyle Larson at Ganassi in the first half of his career.
Right.
30 seconds, real quick. We've had the last two champions. Joey Logano won his third championship 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Last year, I believe it was Kyle Larson winning his second. Am I right on that?
Correct.
All right. We got two guys in particular, real quick. Give me who you got. Tyler, I'll start with you. Two guys who've never won a championship that everybody's looking at this year.
Yeah.
Christopher Bell or William Byron? Who do you give the better chance to pull a championship this year?
William Byron.
Doug?
It could be either. Let's go with Christopher Bell just because he said Byron, but I think it's a toss-up.
It's okay. All right, there's your test pick 'em. Doug, that was fun. I look forward to this. We got to get you more time every week. Start you right at 1:30. I apologize. That was my fault. We started a little late, but they're going to have a lot of fun this year. It's going to be a fantastic year.
No, it's an honor to be on with you guys. Thanks for having me here. And y'all find me on socials at Doug Turnbull or Fireball Turnbull, and check out my 5 to Go podcast as well.
All right, we'll talk to you next week, Win. Appreciate it.
Hey, you got it.
All right, we'll come back, wrap up hour number 2 of the halftime show here on the Game.
You're bringing in the champ. You're bringing in the champ. Bringing Tyler. Well, I'm the champ. So the checkered flag challenge. Now, I feel like a respectable opponent in you and Doug.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. We have to.
I'm intimidated to start.
Well, we have to figure out the scoring system and how we're going to do all that.
I'm going to simplify it. It's going to be real easy. It's going to be easy. I'm going to look for a celebrity out there that wants to join us. So we'll have a 4-person pick 'em each week. and we'll get a sponsor for it officially, and we'll get back to picking some NASCAR. I'll admit, I'll gladly admit, I mean, I love sports. That's why I do this job. That's why we do this job. And 9 years ago, I didn't care about NASCAR. I didn't. It wasn't something that was ever on my radar. And credit to Jen. Jen got me completely into NASCAR, and and I'll tell the funny story. I'll be honest. It'd be completely dead honest. The first time we ever did the pick'em was about 2018, somewhere in there. And shocker of all shockers, I wasn't really prepared for the segment. Didn't care. It was NASCAR, right?
Okay. All right.
And we're sitting here. We go to do the segment, and I'm sitting where you're sitting over there, and I'm like, okay, let me look it up real quick. And an article comes up. We're picking for Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells me Denny Hamlin's the favorite. I'm like, all right, I'll take Denny Hamlin.
Sure.
Just give me Denny Hamlin. Well, Denny Hamlin goes on to win. Well, it turns out I had read the article from the year prior.
Okay.
I had read a year-old article and picked Denny Hamlin off of him being the favorite. Now, it turned out that Denny Hamlin's a really good driver, and I learned from there. But I got the one thing that's cool about sports is it caught my attention to now, over the last 6 or 7 years, every Sunday, I'm like, well, what time's the race? I want to see the race. I want to be involved in the race. I want to see what's going on. And it's really cool to me that I've gotten involved in that sport and learning. You grew up in it.
Sure.
I did not. My time is a lot more limited, but I do enjoy hearing you and Doug go back and forth. And I'm kind of, in all seriousness, here to sit and listen and gather. And
we'll try and educate you.
We'll learn a lot. We will. You two are very smart, very wise guys, and we look forward to Doug Turnbull joining us each and every week. That'll be Thursdays at 1:30 each and every Thursday. So if you want to hear, go ahead and again, 5 to Go podcast. 5 to Go podcast is his podcast where you can listen to more. He's also an announcer for the Performance Racing Network. So a lot of great stuff he's doing, and you can follow him on Twitter at Doug Turnbull, Turn Bull, Bull. Check him out, follow him there, and thank him for his contributions to our show. We'll get back into basketball talk. We'll talk about the SEC coming up in the next hour. Booger McFarland, a comment he made. But as I sit here during the break and I scroll Twitter, let's go non-sports for a minute.
Okay.
There's a story that popped up on my storyline here just a second ago. Everybody's got a price. We're learning that, right?
Sure.
Luke Ferrelli had a price.
That's what the $1 Million Man always said.
Somewhere out there, you've got a price.
Yeah.
What is your price to go to prison? Because there's a story out there.
All right.
There's a story out there. There's a guy who chose the bank made an error. First Bank is the name of the bank. First Bank made an error, and he chose to go to prison for 1 year instead of returning $1.1 million that was sent to his bank. And now I'm just reading the story. I don't know. I'm sure there are other details to it. What is your number on going to prison?
Okay.
For a year.
For a year.
1 year of prison. Prison, too. I'm not talking jail. I'm not talking about the little down the road.
Probably be north of $1 million. I'll say that one.
Well, this guy's number was 1.1.
If you give me...
And I don't know how that works with taxes. So, again, I'm not...
You can promise me $5 million.
$5 million for a year of prison? I
can comfortably live off of that for the rest of my life. I could lose a year for $5 million.
You're giving up 1 year of your life, and Lord knows whatever it is that happens in prison for $5 million.
Probably $5 million.
Gotta admit, my number's lower. I'm thinking 1.5. Like I'm thinking 1.5 when this guy went to prison.
Now, if it was the bank's mistake, why is he going to prison?
I think you still got to give the money back.
So but they're letting him keep it if he goes to prison.
I think he got it out.
Are they basically equating? It's like he's serving the time for theft without actually stealing the money.
I believe you're right.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe you're right. I've got to do a little more research. There's a bunch of stories about stuff like this happening. I just came across another one. 1.05 million said man chooses 1 year in prison over repaying bank that mistakenly sent him 1.05 million.
The bank should go to jail for that, not him.
Well, I'm sure the bank's got their own list of issues that they've got it. Somebody at the bank has to answer some questions right now.
And hey, if I see that hit my account, I'm cashing out. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened to that money.
Well, it by all accounts, what I'm reading, that's precisely what happened, and it got me thinking. What is your Dave? You got a number on this? Now, Dave, I'm not picking on you. You got a number?
I'll have to think about it, but I do know that you must report your ill-gotten gains to the IRS, or they will come after you.
Well, Dave, what's your number? Come on.
100 million.
Ooh.
You are a little older.
Probably.
You are a
Hard
little
bargain.
okay. 100 million. Good grief, Dave. It's 1 year of prison. I know they don't. All right. Okay. There's our answers. Well, we'll get back into sports talk. Basketball, football, SEC's doing all kind of crazy stuff. So when the sun goes down on my side of town. There you go. I got to remember the words. I wasn't ready. I was more focused on this 1.5, well, my 1.5 million to go to prison.
Now, what prison is he going to? I think that's a very important question to ask.
Doesn't tell me.
Because some prisons are better than others.
Their way. Amen to that.
Just saying.
That does influence you.
If I check the Yelp ratings on a prison and it's got 4.5 stars, I'm like, all right. If I check it and it's got 1, I'm like, maybe not.
Are there Yelp ratings on a prison? Does anybody know?
I'm sure there is some kind of prison rating system out there. It's got to exist.
Well,
right?
there went my night. I'll be Googling Yelp ratings on a prison. What did you just say also that I should watch on Netflix?
Yeah. And my wife and I love documentaries, and we watched the Eileen Wuornos one last night.
I like a good documentary.
It's pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good. Well, no, it's chilling for the content matter, but
it's different because this is a woman who was just taking out men left and right.
Yeah, she was. I think she was America's first female serial killer.
Really?
I believe.
Okay.
And
it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Yeah, we watched that last night. That was interesting.
Did you watch that instead of the basketball game?
No, it was before the basketball game. I was like, we wrapped that at about 8:15. I'm like, all right, now I got to watch the basketball game.
I would. Okay. I suggested last night to watch The Rip. If you haven't seen it on Netflix, and as y'all all know, I'm not a movie person. As a matter of fact, last night I got into a discussion and someone was appalled and like literally appalled to learn that I've never seen Titanic. And my point on that was like, I know the plot line. Iceberg,
the boat
ship,
sinks.
The boat sinks.
He can't fit on the door.
People don't make it, and as with most cases in life, the woman did not let the man on the door, and the man did not make it. I have the plot line down cold on that one, much like the body of Leo.
I feel like because there's a lot of movies out there that like you just assume everyone's seen. I don't feel like Titanic is at the top of that list, where I just assume everybody has seen it at some point.
I knew, yeah. Oh, yeah. What happened here in Titanic? I wonder what happens. Isn't there a diamond at the bottom of the ocean? Have you seen it?
I have. I don't remember.
And she's had it all those years, and then she just drops it back in the ocean.
Because the movie she is telling the story. Is it like 70 years later, Dave?
I've seen the memes of her, like she's sitting in like a rocker or something.
It's 84 years?
I've seen the memes, but... yeah, watch. So you've got a documentary to watch on Netflix.
Yeah.
I say watch The Rip on Netflix. I got a lot of, I have no clue what it's about, but I got a lot of suggestions last night when I put that on Twitter to watch a 6-episode miniseries on Netflix called, I think it's Him and Hers.
Okay.
I believe is what it was. I have to check that back out. And we say all that to you because we've been talking basketball today, and just to be blunt, be honest, I don't know how much basketball we're going to be watching for the month of February. Baseball starts 2 weeks from tomorrow.
You can watch. You may not enjoy it.
And that's another big question to this, Tyler, is we've talked basketball a lot today. We've talked more about the future and where this basketball program is going. And, the way this team was built, and I credit Lamont Paris because he's not lied. He's not tried to hide behind it. The team he built has not lived up to what he built. And I will admit this. I don't know if that is really bad evaluations. I don't know if that is players not living up to their potential because of coaching. I don't think it's just as simple as people want to just be like, well, they stink. Okay, that's a broad term. But obviously, we know this team was built. I think you were on with me when we had Lamont Paris.
Yeah.
And he specifically spoke to the fact that this team was built to shoot the three.
Yes.
And you had Asandiko last night take one from like 30 feet. And I was like,
well,
my goodness.
Here's the thing. They take the shots. They do what they intended to do. They just don't go in.
That's a good point.
And that's trying.
And that's kind of what we're talking about. And so, people, and I think based on what I see on message boards and Twitter, people are tired of it. And I understand. And there is zero reason South Carolina cannot have a competitive basketball team. The financial support might not be there to win a championship. Let me be clear about that. Based on what I'm told, The financial support is there to be competitive. It's not to be – the financial support is not so bad that they should be 4-22 with 9 of those 22 losses being by 20 or more points and 4 of those 9 being by 30 or more over the last 26 games. They might not be spending $15 or $20 million on a basketball roster like basketball blue bloods do. But there's enough money there to build an adequate roster to be competitive in the SEC. And Tyler, unfortunately, 22 losses in the last 26 games, 9 of them, nearly half are coming by 20 or more points. That is not being competitive.
Well, and again, we're talking about this in year number 4. In year number 1, they had some pretty lopsided losses, teams like Tennessee.
And that's, remember, I'm not counting year 1.
Yeah, you're not counting year 1, but you can excuse those losses. All right, he's taking a step up in competition. You know, we got to kind of get a feel of what the SEC is like. You almost kind of forgive some of that stuff in year number 1. But they also had pretty signature wins, like beating Kentucky that year. It's just this year, you know, you're having historic losses we haven't seen in, you know, this millennium, and you're 4 years into this thing. So it's like you're not getting better. You're not heading in the right direction. And we're obviously seeing that 1 year that you made the tournament was an exception and not the rule of what this era for Lamont Paris has been. And again, I feel like getting to the end of year number 4, that's a large enough sample size to know what you are. And obviously we haven't seen enough good during that time.
Well, the question will be, the questions that we don't have an answer for, that Lamont Paris and Jeremiah Donati know. And then a few people in the basketball office. But let's start with the head coach and the athletic director. What was the number on the NIL that Lamont Paris was allowed to go out and speak or to go out and give out?
It was reportedly between $4 and $4.5 million.
Okay, see, I've heard higher.
I haven't seen higher, but that's what the range that I've seen.
See, I've heard closer to 8, not 8, but closer to 8.
All right,
and so that's my point. We're getting, you and I and Chris and Wes and John Whittle and all the hell, everybody, there's fluctuating numbers as to what they have gotten.
It was more than last year. We know that much.
I also understand it was more last year. And does it stink that that's where basketball's at now? Yes, it stinks that's where college football is at. But that's part of the sport. And is Lamont Paris and the basketball program being funded as well as it should? Probably not. No. Do they get the fan support that they should probably get? Well, they get it when they win. And that brings up a whole other topic. But we're now starting to look at a program that isn't losing. They aren't being competitive when they lose, Tyler. And that's where we sit today. And I think, again, as I put on Twitter, and I want your opinion on this, the basketball program is now in the hands of Jeremiah Donati. Jeremiah, we look at you now and go, what are you going to do? And I'll be honest. And it's not his responsibility, but this is my standpoint. This is Bill Gunner's standpoint. You can say, no, he doesn't deserve it to anybody. Jeremiah, I do think it's getting darn near close. Maybe not this week, maybe not next week, but for Jeremiah Donati, you want to make a comment publicly, I don't think you can allow your coach to twist in the wind a little bit on this.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad.
What do you say, though, right? When
I hate to say it. I hate to say it. You
all kind of know what's going to happen.
You
right?
rip the Band-Aid off. I don't know if you give him the public support of the vote of confidence. I don't know, but I feel like
it would probably be something like we're going to evaluate all options in the offseason or something, right?
Okay, all right.
You want to hear that from him just to be sure?
I think most people read between the lines of that and go like,
sure,
we see that you.
But again, if you want a statement, that's probably what it's going to be, because you're not going to give them the we fully support them and you know we're looking ahead to next year and all that kind of stuff, because that sends an even wronger message, which I don't think people want.
That you don't do.
No.
Texas is up. LSU. They should beat LSU. They'll probably be favored, and then it's at Texas next week. That'll be on the 3rd, so that'll be on Tuesday night, 7 o'clock at Texas, and then that will be followed up for the Gamecock. Texas is playing better. Mm-hmm. They beat Georgia. They're playing a lot better. Georgia last night should have beat Tennessee. We haven't drug Tyler through the mud on
shoot
that
the three,
one.
Millender. Shoot the three.
But if you look at Texas, they actually have lost 3 or 4, but they lost to A&M by 4, Kentucky by 5, and lost last night at Auburn by 6. Those are 3 pretty good teams, and they beat Georgia by 20.
Yeah.
So they've actually, even with 3 of the 4 losses, and this is what we talk about being competitive, they've lost 3 of the last 4. 803-404-6100. Coming up, Captain Munnerlyn. Man, I remember his recruitment. It was a lot of fun. He was a lot of fun to watch. And then he went on to a great NFL career, and now South Carolina's offered him. He's coaching up in Charlotte. He's actually now going to coach a little bit of professional football this spring. We'll catch up with him next. He joins us. You're listening to The Halftime Show.
Tyler right here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. I just checked my weather app, and yep, it's still going to be some form of precipitation this weekend. Rain, wintry mix, or just straight up snow. There's going to be some form of water falling from the sky, and at some point, if it is snow, that water is going to melt. And if you have a crawl space under your home, that water can end up in that crawl space and create so many problems for you and your family. It can invite things like mold and mildew into your home. Pests like termites can get in there too, which you absolutely do not want. It can also affect the air that you breathe in your home, because about half the air that comes into your home is from your crawl space, and you don't want to be breathing in moldy, mildewy air, do you? Well, that's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate those foundation and crawl space issues and get them fixed so you can live worry-free going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com for our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists.
We are efforting the one and only Captain Munnerlin to join us here, but talking a lot to Dan. Dave is working to get him on the phone lines.
Busy guy.
He, one thing I'm going to ask him, all joking aside, he was in Buffalo for a year. How does that compare to right here now?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You're talking about a dude from Alabama and Captain Munnerlin.
You ever asked DeMarco about that?
I've had that conversation, and we might see if DeMarco can join us for a weather report.
Okay. I was going to say, this is nothing compared to Buffalo days.
Captain Munnerlin's from Mobile, Alabama, and he spent most of his life. He played for the Panthers. Then he went to the Vikings, which wasn't exactly much
indoor
warmer, but yeah, at least he played games indoors. And he was with the Bills practice squad in 2019. But we'll see. Dave is efforting him. We'll see if we can snag him here this afternoon, as I texted with him yesterday. 803-404-6100. So let me ask you this. Yesterday I'm watching Pardon the Interruption.
All right.
And it was kind of an innocuous comment, but all of a sudden it got me thinking. That's why I literally text you. So I'm watching in Booger McFarland and Tony Kornheiser, and there was another guy, I believe, it wasn't Wilbon. And they're talking about the Darian Mensah situation, and Booger McFarland made a comment, and it stuck out to me. And he's talking about Miami being able to obtain Darian Mensah. And Darian Mensah probably getting more money. And the number, again, all these numbers we don't know, it's word of mouth. And the word with Mensah for Duke was $4 million.
Right.
$4 million. And just got in the text back that he's ready.
Okay.
Dave, call him again. But was $4 million. And now he likely is going to make more money at Miami.
Right.
Good. Kudos to the young man for taking advantage of who you are.
I mean, if somebody's willing to offer you
that's
more.
That's my point.
Yeah.
If you're like, is this lack of loyalty or is good for the player? Because remember we said this is good for players. This is great for the players.
Sure. And, I mean, same thing with Ferrelli's situation. Like, hey, they dangled a carrot in front of you that was significantly larger, and for your own personal benefit, you said, hey, I think this benefits me more to go there and take that money, and he did. Now, again, it seemed like he wanted to stay at Clemson, but sometimes that money, that offer becomes so big, you're kind of like, well, I feel like I can't pass this up.
Right.
That's kind of where we're at now.
Like it felt like years ago as this started, we were all like, well, the players are at the mercy of everybody else, and the players should be paid what they're worth. Well, now they're getting paid what they're worth. I guess Darian Mensah, he's considered one of the top recruits. I think he was number 3 on ESPN's transfer portal list.
They're getting paid what an open market says they're worth, because
right.
it's not structured like the NFL, where, all right, here's exactly what this quarterback's making. We think you're better. We're going to pay you more than that. We don't think you're better. You're going to make less than that. Like, it's an arms race, right? You're just trying to outdo whatever the other schools have done.
But are we like good for the player? Good. This has now worked out. Now the players have their own. Yeah, because this is what happened with Luke Furley. You can be mad at him, or you don't have to be mad at him. Either way.
Yeah.
Like, is that where we're at?
I've always been pro player. Again, we didn't see it getting to this point, but it's kind of a don't hate the player, hate the game type of thing. Like, they're not the ones that created this convoluted mess. They're just benefiting from it. And until somebody gets a wrangle on this, they're going to continue.
803-404-6100. Yeah, because it felt like years ago, what we would do is we were pro player. But now we're watching players really take advantage of the system. And Luke Ferrelli did that. We can be mad at Mississippi and Pete Golding, and we should be. They tampered. They cheated. That by the book, they cheated. Probably Miami tampered too. Look, again,
there was
the rumor of Lenora Sellers in November from, who was that, Adam Schefter or Mel Kiper? Not Mel Kiper, Todd McShay.
Todd McShay, yeah.
What do you think? That was just random speculation?
Yeah,
no, that was talking behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Miami was looking ahead to 2026 thinking, well, we don't have Carson Beck. We need a quarterback.
Yeah, everybody's doing it. That's just the nature of where things are at right now. And again, the players didn't create this. They're just the ones living in the reality of what the system is, and they're benefiting from it. So until we get a wrangle on things, it's going to continue this way. But no, I don't blame the players. And again, if I was in a situation where I was an 18, 19-year-old kid and I'm out of school and another school wants to offer me hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and more dollars for the same services, I'm probably going to go too. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'd stay committed to the school that I originally signed with, because we'd all do the same thing.
All right, what we're going to do, we're going to hit a break early. Captain Munderland is on the line, but I want to give him the proper amount of time. I don't want to push him out. So let's hit a break. We'll come back. Gamecock great, NFL great. Coach, he's going to become a coaching legend. I can already tell. We'll tell you about that. Captain Munderland, and also we're going to ask him about his time in Buffalo compared to the weather that he's getting now in Charlotte. It's not warm. We're going to talk with him about a lot of topics. We're going to have him when we come back. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 2:27 on a Thursday, or again, as I like to label it, the weekend. And joining us now, Gamecock great. And Captain, I've always said, you're never former. No longer you're not former. You're always a Gamecock great. You played here. You'll always be a Gamecock. And welcome into the program. You got so many incredible things going for you. But I got to ask you, man, you were in Minnesota for 2 years.
Yes.
You were in Buffalo.
3 years.
3 years. 3 years. You were in Buffalo for a year. How does this little weather compare to what you had to deal with up there?
Oh, man, this ain't nothing compared to what I deal with in Minnesota, especially being in Minnesota. Had to play outside for 2 years. You know, that's when the dome collapsed.
That's right.
And we got a new stadium.
Y'all were playing
and
outside.
They didn't tell me that before I signed my contract. I would have rethought it, you know. But, you know, me being from Mobile, Alabama, and have to play in that weather was different, man. Playing outside of the University of Minnesota for 2 years, man, that weather was different. I played in probably the third coldest game in NFL history when I played against the Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs, man.
Goodness.
Getting out the car, I remember, man, just coughing for no reason, and it was like negative 27 degrees. And I was part of that game. I remember playing and had to run on the side. Every time it was like TV timeout and stuff, I ran on the sideline to the heaters to get back out there. I missed one play. And Coach Zimmer, he never let me live that one down. It was so cold, I ran out, and they started the game back, and I didn't realize it, and I'm over there on the heater, and I missed the play. Yeah.
I have to ask, since you brought that game up, your thoughts on Bud Grant,
That's it.
Vikings legend, walking out in short
When he
sleeves for
walked
the
out,
coin toss?
Listen, so the guys made a decision to wear no sleeves before the game, right? There's DBs were going out there with no sleeves. I was the oldest guy in the group at the time, me and Terrence Newman, and I'm sitting there like, no, I'm like, BS, no, I don't know, no. I'm wearing sleeves. I'm from Mobile, Alabama. So I was the only guy that had sleeves on, and when Bud Grant walked out that tunnel and did the coin toss, those guys looked at me and said, come on now, Cap. And I was like, yo, bro, I couldn't help it. It was like, wow, I couldn't believe he walked out like that in that type of weather.
I remember that, and I actually remember him walking out for the coin. You're right. Granted, I was sitting at home safely in front of a fire under about blankets, and I was like, man, this old man is insane. Like, I don't know what he's been through in life, but he is not all mentally there. But those were interesting years. Let's start with you. Just recently, I guess, in the last 48 hours, congratulations. You are going to be coaching for the Columbus Aviators, the defensive coordinator here this spring.
Yes, man. It was a great opportunity, man. I couldn't turn the opportunity down to, move up in the coaching realm, still be able to coach at my high school that I coach at. And it's a spring league, so I still will be back, for my high school babies and things like that. But, man, to get the opportunity, to elevate and coach, some guys that are trying to make it to the NFL, places where I've been, I couldn't turn it down, man. So, yes, I'm a DC now in the UFL, man. So it seems so real, man. So it was like, wow, I can't believe it. But I'm excited for the opportunity.
As a former player, what are your thoughts on having a spring league now where these guys that either didn't get an opportunity out of college or maybe got cut from practice squads can go out there and play real football in the offseason to try and get themselves back on NFL rosters?
I think it's a great opportunity for those guys. In basketball, they have the G League. When guys play in the G League, then they elevate their games and, get into the NBA. The NFL, we never had nothing like this. They had, the CFL and you got Arena League, but this is the closest thing you're going to get to the NFL, and especially it's a spring league. So if you do well in this spring league, teams going to be looking at you and you still have an opportunity to go to camp with teams. So I think it's a great thing that they got for these guys. I hope these guys take advantage of it. I'm excited because now I get to coach, another Carolina guy in Cam Smith. Cam Smith actually got drafted by the Aviators, and so I get the opportunity to try to get him back in the right path and try to get him back on the NFL roster.
You are one of the guys that has been a major part of creating what I think is DBU, and one of those guys that'll be in the Super Bowl. Two of them, actually. Unfortunately, Marcellus Dial is out injured right now, but Nick Eamon-Worry with the Seahawks, in your opportunities to watch the Seahawks and watch him play this year and even see him at South Carolina, what are your thoughts on him as a player? What stood out to you being a professional and how he's translated to the NFL?
Man, his speed of the game. Everybody talk about how the speed of the game has changed, when you go from college to the NFL. But I think his ability to change direction and to make tackles has been great. I know we played in the SEC, so it's kind of different. You always make jokes with guys that played in, the Big Ten, Pac-12, and all that. We make jokes like, our speed is just different. But his speed of the game coming, to the NFL, man, was just crazy. And how he closed in on tackles and how he's been a for-sure tackler. That's been a great thing about him, and I think he should win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I know everybody say I'm kind of biased about it because he went to the University of South Carolina, but I think he had the opportunity to definitely win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He had a great, amazing year. And to go to the Super Bowl, man, your rookie season, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. I never had the opportunity even to play in the Super Bowl, but to go into your rookie year, man, to get that opportunity, I hope he take advantage of it. And I hope he soak all this in, man, because you never know when you're going to get back.
Why is South Carolina over multiple coaching staffs and different defensive back coaches? Of course, got a great one now with Torian Gray. Why has this been a school so good at putting DBs in the league over the years?
Oh, man, I think it started with, guys like, Sheldon Brown and the old school guys that really, stepped up and had those guys believing, man. And you have the Dante Robinson and, I got to pay homage to all my guys, the Jonathan Joseph, the Cole Simpson, who made the way for us to step in and play the game that we love at the University of South Carolina, man. Those guys paid the way, and they started to get drafted. A couple guys went first round, second round, and they had longevity in the league. So when guys look at that, when you look at who's been in the NFL and where teams put the most DBs in, and we're in that conversation. We definitely in that conversation. Then you got myself, and then you got Stephon Gilmore, the DJ Swagner, and the Darren Stewarts, and the guys are like that. We're in that conversation, man, of one of the, better schools that put defensive back out. And, I also got to say the Andre Goodmans and things like that, bro. So I think when you look at it, the full overall makeup when it comes to a defensive back, you got to say South Carolina is definitely in the top 3 or top 5, of putting DBs in the NFL. And that's what guys go to college for. They go to college to get a degree and try to make it to the NFL, have aspirations to make it to the NFL. And I think by going to a school that have the makeup of putting DBs in the NFL, that plays a lot of in it.
He is Captain Munnerlyn, Gamecock great, joining us this afternoon. He is new Columbus Aviators defensive coordinator. You can check him out in the UFL coming up here this spring. It'll be a lot of fun to watch and see your development. And you are also right now getting to do something really cool. And I know this means a lot to you. I don't know how many people really know your backstory growing up in Mobile. I remember, Cap, not that you're much younger than me. You're only about 6 years, but I was just getting into recruiting. I remember you coming up. I remember your recruitment and Ron Cooper and all that. Yeah. And but you have a great life story of growing up and then your relationship with your mother, and now you get to coach and work with young kids, including your son, and just talk about your affinity for being there, being a father figure, being a high school coach up in Charlotte.
Man, it was a no-brainer for me. I had the opportunity to do the Bill Watts Coaching University a couple of years ago with the Buffalo Bills, and Coach McDermott at the time, he tried to hire me. He definitely tried to hire me. And I was sitting there like, man, I've seen it, how the NFL works. And NFL, you're really just coaching. You're not teaching. And I'm more of a better teacher, and a coach. Don't get me wrong, I can do both. But I'd rather teach and coach. Because in the NFL, man, I'll never forget sitting in a room with a couple guys, and you telling them, hey, man, you need to change your stance. It's going to help you get there. And you looking at a guy like Von Miller, and you're trying to tell him to change his stands, and he made $250 million. And he's like, hey, man, this stand made me $250 million. Why would I switch it up? And I'm sitting there like, wow, he right. Why would he switch it up? But at the high school level, I really can break you down, and I can teach you the game. I can teach you why and this and that, and that's what I love about it. That's why I love the high school game, because I really can teach and coach. And I want to give these kids an opportunity to do what I did, man, to make it to the next level, to have an opportunity to retire your mom and, and play at a very high level for a very long time, man. That's why I do it, man. And when they see me, man, I always tell the guys, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. Look at me. I'm not. You can always make it if you put your mind to it and you work your tail off, and that's what I did, man. I was coachable. I worked my tail off, and, the rest was history.
For people who don't know, you were a premature baby. I think I saw where you weighed like 3 pounds, and one of the things that's very close to your heart is the March of Dimes.
March of Dimes.
Because of that, talk a little bit about that.
Oh man, just being born 3 months early. Don't supposed to be here. I tell guys that all the time, man. I don't supposed to be in the position I'm in. Born 3 months early, to have an opportunity to do what I did, man, and to live life like I have. It's special. And that's why I try to always go back to the hospital or when the March of Dimes have an event to, do walks and do different things with those guys and let them know, man, it's always hope. It's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Once you get through everything, it's always light at the end of the tunnel. So that's what I try to do each and every year with the March of Dimes, man. Let the kids know there is hope.
As your son's starting to go through the recruiting process now, and you don't have to be specific about schools or anything like that, how interesting has it been to go through it as a parent now and see the differences from how it was now to compared to 20 years ago?
Oh, it's definitely different. Him as a freshman in high school, he's a big, he's big, man. When I say he's big, he definitely get the height from me. So he's sitting at 6'2", 180 pounds already as a freshman, as a 15-year-old, man. And just to go through this process with him, and I think it's just a blessing, man. Like I told him, man, don't take this for granted. I know you're sitting there, you're a freshman, and you're sitting there 22 offers as a freshman. It's crazy. And I'm like, yo, and times has changed. They couldn't even talk to us when I was a freshman. And that's what I said. He's like, what, Dad? I was like, they couldn't say nothing to me when I was a freshman. Those guys couldn't even talk to us. But now, times has changed. You got this NIL stuff, and you got a whole, the demographic of college football has changed. So it's just a blessing, man, for him to get this opportunity and for me to see it firsthand. And then, he got an ace in the hole with me. I always told him, you got an ace in the hole with me, a guy who's been through the process, who, made it to the next level, who knows the ins and outs. And it's just something he got to lean on. And I think he's going to do that. And like I said, man, I just didn't expect this kid to be 6'2", 180 pounds as a freshman.
If he ends up with a higher star rating than you had, is he going to rub that in?
Oh, he's already rubbing it in. He said, Dad, he already rubbed it in already. He said, Dad, I got 22 offers as a freshman. I was like, the times have changed. But I told him one time I got over him is, hey, I made it to the NFL. I made it to the next level. So now when he go off to college, he got bigger dreams. But one thing about him, man, my son, he don't shy away from nothing. And, a lot of guys like, man, maybe he want to start his own legacy. Yes, that's true. He want to start his own legacy, but he don't mind going to the University of South Carolina, wearing number 1, and, he want to fill those big shoes. And I always tell him that, man, you can do anything you want to do. I'm going to support you. But one thing about this kid, man, he don't shy away from nothing.
This is kind of a weird question. You picked up offers South Carolina, West Virginia, and Kansas State. I don't know as an 18, well, probably as a 16, 17-year-old, if you understood what was happening. Was it a more exciting moment for you to get those offers when you think back on it, or to see your son? And I know you're an incredible father. You're there for him. You mentioned it. And it's a different feeling, right? Like, it's a different feeling when you get them as opposed to seeing your son and the hard work he's put in. Can you describe that, how it was when you got those offers and realizing your sense of accomplishment against seeing your son and the work he's put in to see that?
Yeah, I think the difference when I got those offers, I was shocked. Being a smaller kid from Mobile, Alabama, to have the opportunity to play in the SEC and to do the things that I did, I was just more like, couldn't believe it. Like, I'm really finna get an opportunity to play the game that I love at the next level, and going to school for free. And that's what I was looking at. And my mom didn't have to pay for nothing and things like that, man. I was just looking at that opportunity. I couldn't believe it. And to see my son do it, it's like, wow. I don't want nothing but the best for my son, but to see him go through this process and see how good he is in football and the ceiling that he has, it's like wow, man. It's just like a surreal moment for me, man. And I know one thing about him. He's going to soak it all in, and he's definitely going to rub it up in my face. I can tell you that.
He is Captain Muddle, and just about 3 minutes left with him. Now, everybody's got a good Spurrier story. Spurrier was a unique personality. Do you have a Spurrier story from your time here that you were just like, this guy is something a little bit different than most coaches?
That you can share on the radio?
That you can share, yeah. I remember.
I can share it on the radio.
All right.
Yeah, I remember we were on the radio. But I think the story is Actually, it's when I was done. You know, I was in the NFL. I was in Charlotte already. So I came back for a job. I mean, I came back for a game. I came back for a game. And Spurrier, I was on the sideline watching the guys play. I think they was playing Florida. And I was standing on the sideline, and we gave up like a 3rd and long. It was like 3rd and 17. I think they called cover 2, and the corner jumped the flat route, and it was a 7 route behind them. It was a corner route behind them, and the kid jumped the flat route, and they threw the 7, and they completed it. He came to me in the middle of the game now. In the middle of the game, he said, I remember a guy who did that. And I was like, who, coach? And I knew the play he was talking about. He was talking about me. I think we was playing like Louisiana Lafayette on the Thursday night football. And he was like, you did the same exact thing. And I was sitting there like, man, this guy don't forget nothing. And it was like my freshman year. And I'm like, this guy don't forget nothing. He brought it up to me and tapped me on the shoulder, gave me that little grin, and walked off. And I was like, man, that's the funniest story I ever had. I should have looked around at a couple other players. I said, I can't believe he still remembered that play. And we won that game, like, convincingly. But he remembered that I jumped the flat, and they threw a corner route behind me just like they did against this kid.
Well, Captain, we will definitely have you back on in the future, man. Congratulations to you. We'll be following you up in Columbus. When do you have to report up there to start?
We start, actually, it's in Dallas. You go to Texas first. You go down there February 15th. We start from there, and then I think the season ends like May 31st, and I get to be in the high school, man, for a minute.
Good deal. You got a couple kids from the state of South Carolina that are on that roster. Another one that I saw is playing from the Citadel to be a part of that. Noah Dawkins, who's a 6'1", 240-pound linebacker who's from Spartanburg. So we look forward to following you and definitely getting you back on. Congratulations to you and your son, and you're a wealth of knowledge. So we definitely want to speak with you again in the near future.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, man.
Always great to do it, buddy. Take care. Take care. Captain Muddleton.
By the way, very believable Spurrier story.
Yeah, his memory, a lot of people will tell you he's an elephant. He's an elephant, and always fun to hear from that. So a lot of fun to hear from Captain Muddleton. That's a great story. You hear what he's doing, being a high school coach up in Charlotte, where doing very good. Didn't get to mention, I believe they won at Julius L. Chambers High School, won their first playoff game this year under the tutelage of Captain Muddleton, and now going to be the defensive coordinator in the spring league for the UFL for the Columbus Aviators, where, as you heard him mention, he'll have Cam Smith, former Blythewood standout and former South Carolina standout, and was drafted in the NFL.
Did you see he was coaching that team?
Ted Ginn Jr.
Ted Ginn Jr.
803-404-6100. Big thank you again, Captain Muddleton there. Captain Dave, our own captain. We'll get that up on the podcast if you're just tuning in and missed it. Really fun interview there with him. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the whole Thursday episode. You're listening to The Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's that 30 years that is your assurance that their professionals will get the job done in a safe, timely, and pleasing manner to you and your operation. And with weather on the way, snow, sleet, rain, hail, whatever we're going to get, I have no clue. You need to make sure that your roof is in working order, because there's nothing worse than dealing with bad weather only to discover a leak in your roof. Whether it's your home or your business, you want to make sure that that roof is taking care of you and your family and keeping your operation dry and running. So give them a phone call today and line up a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Don't wait until the leak happens. Call today. Get some maintenance set up. 803-356-1919. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. Thank you again to Doug Turnbull for joining us earlier for our Checkered Flag Challenge 2026 segment, and we will get more into that, and that was a lot of fun. And then thank you again right there to Gamecock great Captain Munnerlyn for joining us, and what was a really fun interview. And there's so much, Tyler, we kind of looked at each other afterwards, so much to the story of Captain Munnerlyn, from being born premature, major, if you haven't read the story on him, major family issues growing up, brothers being drug dealers, father being killed, mother turning to Christianity, and Captain really staying away from all that, going on to a very good career here at the University of South Carolina, parlaying that into a very nice NFL career, and now doing great things in the Charlotte area. Both helping with the March of Dimes, but coaching at Julius L. Chambers High School, and now watching his career develop, where he will be the defense coordinator for the Columbus Aviators of the UFL this coming spring.
Yeah, I know it's one of the expansion teams. It's brand new and all that. So cool to see that. Again, you mentioned Cam Smith, getting yet an opportunity to work with him. So a couple of former Gamecocks there. It's pretty neat. And again, his son is still very early on in the recruiting process, but you will see the name Captain Munnerlyn Jr. quite a bit over the next couple of years as he figures out where he wants to play his college career.
Well, a couple of things you heard on that from him, and we're not going to press him on, where's your son going to go, what you going to do. We will have him up. Tyler and I were laughing off air. He got into it talking about the Steve Spurrier story about the 9 route and the 7 route and all the routes there, and both Tyler and I were like, all right. And so I say that because we will get him back on during the college season to break down what he's seeing defensively. As you heard the knowledge there, and also him talking about his time in the NFL, and then also wanting to be more of a teacher than a coach, if that makes sense. Wanting to be a guy who teaches young men how to play the game. So a lot of really fun stuff. And again, what he has overcome to get where he's at and the things he's doing is a lot of fun. I mean, a great representative for the University of South Carolina.
By the way, probably one of the all-time names.
Yes.
For football players, too. I can't remember because they did that, the Key and Peele skit where they did the East-West All-Star Game. They did an NFL version one year where they had the actual guys say their names.
Okay.
I don't remember if Captain Munderland was a part of that or not. He may have been.
Okay.
I know Fozzie Whitaker was, another former Panther. I can't remember if Captain Munderland was or not.
Well, great to have him this afternoon. And again, Captain Dave, if he hasn't already, Captain Dave's phenomenal. We'll get that up, as well as Doug Turnbull, who joined us earlier. I've got a feeling Captain Dave's already been able to do that and get that up for us. And you can go and check out as we get you ready for NASCAR coming up here, supposedly this weekend.
Weather pending. Nothing's been changed as of yet, but the weather up there is going to be a little bit worse than the weather here. So, yeah, we'll fingers crossed.
And you can go and check out Doug Turnbull's 5 to Go podcast. Also, he is on the Performance Racing Network, where you can check him out. Thanks to him. Tomorrow we will be out at Pro Swing, Tyler, and one of the fun things about that, we'll get to watch the Farmers Insurance Open. And as I scroll very quickly, I am excited about this. Now, my golf might be your NASCAR. Okay, I'll admit that. My golf might be your NASCAR, but I am excited to see Brooks Koepka. I will leave here and race home to a TV to catch more of the Farmers Insurance Open, but Brooks Koepka is back. I love Koepka. He's a little controversial right now. He has played 9 holes. He is 1 over through his round on his official return to the PGA Tour. I'm excited about that, so we have something to track there. Tomorrow, we will have Brian Edwards, a Vegas Insider, and also Chris Dinger. A lot happening in the high school
Yeah, he sent me a pretty long text message about what we're going to talk about tomorrow, so a lot of things to get into with him.
We'll get into all of that tomorrow. Final thoughts, we will kind of leave it alone moving forward. We will kind of talk a little bit about South Carolina LSU basketball. But, Tyler, as we wrap it up here with about 2 minutes to go, final thoughts on basketball and where we stand.
It sucks. This is not a fun place to be. Nobody wants to be here. Nobody wants to have these uncomfortable conversations about making changes in the future going forward and all that kind of stuff. But it's where we are. You still got 10 conference games. And, yeah, could you theoretically pull off an upset in that time? Sure. But I don't think enough is going to happen to change the trajectory of where this is headed as of right now. And again, it sucks to be here, and the fan base doesn't want this, obviously, but again, we've seen this story enough times to know kind of what happens next.
As I said, and I will say for the rest of the month, the University of South Carolina basketball program and its future is now in the hands of Jeremiah Donati. He has got a decision to make, and I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. 26 SEC basketball games over the last 2 years, and the Gamecocks are 4-22. That's not good to begin with, Tyler. 9 of those 22 losses have come by 20 points or more. You are not even being competitive in the losses. 4 of those 9 losses have come by 30 points or more, including last night's 47-point loss, which is, I don't have the stat right in front of me.
Tied for 4th worst in program history.
And I don't know if they quit or if it was just that much of a talent discrepancy. But South Carolina basketball is in a bad place. And Jeremiah Donati, you are on the clock now as to making a decision. That's been a lot of fun. We are at Pro Swing tomorrow out on Forest Drive. Good job.
Yeah.
I'm taking you down in the checkered flag challenge, buddy.
We'll see about that.
Oh, well, that was a threat to me.